Good afternoon and welcome you all to another session of OT301 Radio. And I was invited to start this line up. So the first hour will be with me with CAAT projects. And this time we're going to talk about something that is happening in Europe at the moment, a situation in Poland, but that affects all of us. We're going to talk about abortion, about feminism, gender equality, and reproductive justice. And for that, I have one of the best persons I could have here with me. Thank you, Marina. Marina is a queer feminist activist that has found ANA, the Abortion Network Amsterdam. And ANA is a group of volunteers that with very limited resources find a way to grant a safe abortion to the ones that are seeking for it. But we will listening a little bit more about it very soon. Just some technical issues first. So you are probably seeing us or on Facebook or on our OT301.nl website. If you are seeing on Facebook, please just write any comment, any questions, anything that you want us to bring to the table. We want this to be interactive. In case you are seeing from our website, you can send me an email to CAAT so catprojects@gmail.com. And I will be paying attention to my computer and I will make sure that your input will be also here talked by us. And so, Marina, thank you so much for accepting this invitation, and maybe you would like to say a little bit more about yourself and about ANA.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. First of all, thank you for inviting me and us as ANA. My name is Marina. Pronouns she, her, they, them. I am indeed an activist already for quite a while with AbortionNetworkAmsterdam. I was also one of the people that kind of stood at the beginnings of the group. I originally come from Latvia, which is even a bit more east than Poland, but nonetheless here. And the group, we're called Abortion Network Amsterdam. We exist now already for almost 3 years. We are based in Amsterdam, but actually we help people with abortions all over the Netherlands. So it's not only in Amsterdam. We're basically a bunch of volunteers, and we're a grassroots group, so we organize horizontally as much as we can. We also don't really get official funding from anyone. Basically, we kind of crowdfund ourselves. And we are kind of a network that is set up to help people that come from different countries to the Netherlands to get a safe abortion. So what we do is it really depends per client, basically, what they want from us and what we can offer as well, of course. But at the moment, with the coronavirus being there, basically it's making an appointment at a clinic. And it depends which clinic we make an appointment with. Depends basically on how far along in the pregnancy the people are. And what we also do sometimes is to support people financially. Abortion in the Netherlands is pretty expensive if you don't live here. So if you work in the Netherlands, so if you're also have residency in the Netherlands, then you can get an abortion for free. But when you come from the outside, then you have to pay. And so what we do most of the time is an abortion past 12 weeks, let's say. So most of the time it's 16 to 22 weeks. And that would cost somewhere around 850, 900 euros. So you can imagine, especially if we're talking about people from Poland that come here, for some people it's like 2 months of wage. That became very clear to us very quickly that actually this is like a bottleneck. This is also really something that we need to do. So also to offer some kind of monetary support to people. But usually, let's say like pre-corona times, we would also offer a place to stay, As now as well, we sometimes help arrange transport. But yeah, back then it was kind of like also more obvious because now people very often take the car. So like booking tickets and so on, we would also offer. And also, yeah, assistance in the clinic itself. Now it's also not possible because you have to be alone in the abortion clinic. But before that, if people felt really anxious, we would be able to be there sometimes for them. And sometimes translation also in the clinic on the spot. And now the clinics actually just use the translation phone for this. So basically a lot of kind of the things that we originally set out to do at the moment with the coronavirus, we're not really able to do. But still we're able to provide, people with information, booking an appointment, sometimes a hotel if needed, transportation, and also if people need, we offer them also monetary support, basically.
Thank you for the explanation. And when I was calling you and deciding with you about the topics, you said very nicely to me that instead of women's right, we should talk about reproductive justice. You want to comment that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that in ANA, so Abortion Network Amsterdam, we very often, or from the beginning actually, we set out to talk more widely, basically about the politics that are involved in the abortion issue. Very often it is referred to as purely like a woman's right. And I think that for us, with the discussions that we had within the group and also different inputs and different backgrounds that people come from, at one point we started talking about reproductive rights, and then there are a lot of like kind of critics nowadays that also, write these whole articles about what's wrong with rights, what does that mean, and so I think that that's how we also came to reproductive justice. And why we make a point out of this is, well, it's not only women that have abortions. And I think that this is like a very controversial thing to say in a way, and a lot of people will disagree. To me personally, I am a non-binary person, which is a part of a group that deals with reproductive justice. So for me, it's more than logical to say, yeah, women's right doesn't apply to me. And so what we're talking about is basically including pretty much everyone that has a uterus, no matter how they identify. So not depending on their gender identity, basically, to include them in the conversation about reproductive justice. So whether you're non-binary or trans man, in some cases even intersex, we want to include everyone. Another thing to say about today is the 20th of November, which is a Trans Day of Remembrance. And actually this week has been the Trans Remembrance Week. And I think it's good to, put it out there and just acknowledge the fact that we are on this date having this interview. I think it's a day that very often is seen actually as a day of grief for to talk about basically violence that has been done to trans people in the past year. And I wanted to acknowledge the fact that that is also happening as we speak.
Yeah, thank you for that, indeed. And I think as a white woman that is cisgender, I also sometimes want to be inclusive, but forget a little bit that. But this is an invitation to myself and to all of you that might identify with me, that indeed we need to be careful in the way we speak, and words matter. And so it's not only about women, but it's about all the other groups that don't identify as women, but should have the same rights, because should be human rights for all, right?
Yeah, I think it's a really, interesting topic to talk about, and we as well have gotten comments that sometimes maybe we, include people in the conversation that shouldn't be included, and I feel really like, I think the people that shouldn't be included in this conversation are cis men, and they are actually taking up the most space in the conversation usually, being politicians, being people with, I don't know, like, let's say, being able to hold violence against women and so on, being often the partners that, kind of basically push people or their partners into abortions or not getting an abortion and so on. So, for us, I think it's quite clear that this should be a topic that should basically, include as many people that actually, whose bodies we're talking about. You know, my body, my choice is actually a very inclusive slogan. Just like baas in eigen buik in Dutch, it just means, if I am able to get pregnant, I have something to say about it. I should be included in the conversation. And I think that this is also something that we, and I have actually lately had to talk about a lot, also because of a lot of attention from the media around everything that's happening in Poland at the moment, but also in general. Like, for example, Argentina is also almost passing the abortion bill now. So there's a lot of abortion is kind of becoming like a hot topic. So a lot of people want to talk to us as well as, you know, a group that has like kind of a lot of things to say, direct impact kind of on the abortion discussion at the moment. And what I hear is also journalists always saying women, women, women. And when they talk to me, then I really feel a bit alienated, because I think like, okay, but, you know, I'm doing all of this, and, you know, it would be good if you would say people instead of women, and, you know, be more inclusive. And a lot of journalists actually get also very offended on this, because they really feel like, all right, who are you to tell me to correct me? You know, like, I know enough. And I feel like it's very small things that we have to change about basically our language, you know, that would just make it a lot more inclusive to everyone that is involved in reproductive justice. Just like, you know, small things in general, I think in everyday life, these things that kind of make it more inclusive for people, they are not that difficult to implement, they are not that difficult to like say, they're not that difficult to ask sometimes, you know. But I feel like, it's what you say, like if you have a certain amount of privilege, sometimes it feels very uncomfortable to give it away, or to admit you're wrong, or to correct yourself. And I think that we should really not be afraid to do that. It's, you know, totally fine if you make a mistake, as long as you have the intention to correct yourself. So yeah, this is why I'm also very happy that we can include this as a part of the conversation. I think it's a very important topic to address.
I also find a little bit sometimes this feeling when we talk about feminism that is also slightly different ways of seeing it from the people that identify themselves as feminists, but also in my general practice, when I do human rights education trainings, if I would ask to a group who here is a feminist, I think very few people would raise their hands, even though they do believe in gender equality, and even though they are doing practice daily that goes into forcing gender equality into the discussion and into the practice. So yeah, I find it very incoherent and very interesting, and I would like to ask if you also feel this somehow, and what feminism means for you. So when you identify as a feminist, what exactly do you mean with that?
For me, it is a lot about gender equality. So basically being equal in a lot of everyday practices that we face, let's put it like this, not being kind of like looked down upon for being a certain gender. It also means in some ways gender like that goes, or the gender equality that goes both ways. So a lot of empowerment for non-cis men, but also a lot of I don't know, kind of like giving the space for these cis men to also be vulnerable and be emotional. So for me, it maybe goes beyond just like some kind of glass ceiling and like politics or wage gaps or so on. But I think it's also a lot about redefining what is seen as masculine and what is seen as feminine. So kind of redefining all of these values that we so for such a long time had, because I think that that is also where a lot of these inequalities come from, like the fact that, I don't know, you never see women that are firefighter, for example, you know, these kind of things. Yeah, and I think that it is a very interesting question of like how feminism has become this kind of like dirty word that is now trying to be, is kind of getting reclaimed by a lot of, I don't know, famous people like pop stars, politicians. And I think, yeah, I think that it's very clear to me why it has also become such a dirty word, because it's, again, people's privilege being taken away in some ways if we're talking about equality, and very often, again, these people that whose privilege is being taken away have a lot of power in their hands. Yeah, so I think that that is also what how I see it, like why it's become such a dirty word, why we're talking about people being so reluctant to raise their hands and say, hey, I'm feminist. While, and I know also actually within myself, it has been a struggle. Before I kind of really got into feminist activism or queer activism, for me it was for a very long time like, okay, am I gonna call myself a feminist? You know, in the beginning I also thought feminism doesn't matter. I think for each and everyone it can be like really like a long kind of way until we actually get to a point where we're like, okay, yeah, I think I can call myself this. I can identify as a feminist. And I know a lot of my friends and also people that are in the group in Abortion Network Amsterdam. It has also been similar. It has been like a struggle to kind of reclaim the word for yourself, to also really be like, hey, you know, I'm okay with actually being called a feminist. It's not a dirty word. It doesn't mean that I want, I don't know, like a certain, like that I want women to be better. For me, it's also not really about women. I think it's also like kind of fluid word that can be defined very differently, what you said, because it means very different for different people. I'm sure my feminism is very different from Beyonce, but also from Ivanka Trump, who has called herself a feminist. So I'm very sure that there's like an array of different definitions that people use for this as well.
Yeah, and also I find it quite interesting that in the Netherlands, sometimes when I talk with people, a lot of people think that we have already achieved gender equality, so feminism is not necessarily now. What is your opinion about it? Did we already achieve what we wanted, or do we need much, much more to be still done and gather?
Yeah, I think that it's a very interesting question also. I think that, you know, for people that come from different place, like from a different, being migrants in any case, I discuss it very often with, yeah, my friends. Who also have not been born in the Netherlands, and how they see this. You know, like coming from Latvia, I can definitely say, okay, yeah, Netherlands is a lot further than where I come from. Stands kind of, if we look at general society. I can imagine you might say the same, but I feel like living here. I live here already for more than 10 years. Yeah. I definitely think there's a lot more to be done. I think that, yeah, reaching gender equality is going to take a while still. Definitely, yeah, like if we talk about equality, even like this very kind of generic equality of wage gaps and of, yeah, I don't know, political representation and so on. Yeah, it's this thing of like, I think a lot of Dutch people will also say like, yeah, we defeated racism. That also doesn't really exist because we're such a vibrant like, yeah, society. I think that that is a kind of a similar discussion for me. Like, yeah, maybe in some places, if you kind of say it, in some places, if you look very kind of on the surface, and you think like, okay, you know, like for example, yeah, this working environment, there's like equal amount of men and women, for example, or like, yeah, it seems like different gender identifying people are treated treated similarly on the street, or people with different ethnicity background live everywhere in the city, so or everyone's kind of like integrated and chill. I think if you scratch the surface, everywhere, even in Amsterdam, that, you know, seems to be like this really open-minded, or has an image of being a very open-minded city, which I think it's also changing a lot. Yeah, I think that you will find actually that there's still a lot to be done. And I think that, yeah, for us, like, for example, if we take the example of our group, you can see that these political issues of abortion, for example, they're very often like kind of just like put away on the background, you know? Only if someone kind of finds out that something is happening on the topic of abortion and like throws it into the media as this big, yeah, like kind of a sensationalist thing, then it becomes a thing, you know, and then people talk about it. But very often we've seen like a lot of changes in the abortion law, for example, happening in the background. There has been a group, or like a group, it's kind of like an organization that basically gave advice on parenting and abortion that turned out to be coming from religious party background, basically, that has been subsidized by the government, that has also been just recently exposed that this is happening, you know? So a lot of these kind of things, you see that they're like not as important, you know? We're just gonna, you know, do something there, but no one really cares, so fine, like this, you know? And that has already been going on for such a long time, and you still see like the topic of abortion being so hot and so like up for discussion everywhere, and also somehow like being argued about by men politicians all the time, you know, that I think we cannot say that gender equality has been achieved pretty much anywhere.
I totally agree with you. And I think that maybe now is time for our song, a song that you have chosen.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain us why.
All right. So the first song is going to be Zdrada Pałki, o takie Polski. Zdrada Pałki is an incredible person, and actually also an abortion activist, from Poland and currently living in Berlin. She has actually also played in the Netherlands not so long ago. And yeah, they're just like an amazing artist that covers a lot of kind of known songs, sometimes disco polo songs, sometimes kind of more popular songs, and gives them like kind of a political twist. Their lyrics are in Polish, and it's this one particular song, I think it became kind of an anthem on the protests that have been happening in Poland now. And it's basically talking about like, yeah, what if I don't want to have kids? And what if I want to have free access to abortion? Yeah, I think it's like a very danceable song and a very cheerful song. But at the same time, it's, yeah, actually deeply political and very, very cool to have as a kind of an anthem to cheer people on while they're protesting for their rights to abortion.
So we're gonna listen, right? Okay.
Nie chcę mieć dzieci i nie będę miała. Antykoncepcja prawie w 100% działa. Dobrze jest móc rozważyć różne opcje, a jeśli coś nie wyjdzie, zrobię sobie aborcję.
To moje prawo jest, to ja je wybieram. Walczę o nie tutaj, walczę o nie teraz. To twoje prawo jest, to ty je wybierasz. Walcz o nie tutaj, walcz o nie teraz.
Ty chcesz mieć dzieci i to twoja sprawa. Robienie dzieci to wspaniała zabawa. 9 miesięcy pewnie minie szybko, a jeśli coś nie wyjdzie, zrobisz sobie in vitro.
To twoje prawo jest, to ty je wybierasz. Walcz o nie tutaj, walcz o nie teraz. To moje prawo jest, to ja je wybieram. Walczę o nie tutaj, walczę o nie teraz.
Tu moje ciało jest i to ja tutaj rządzę.
So, hello, welcome to our second part of our conversation. I'm Andrea from CAAT Projects, and we are here with Marina from ANA. And the first part, we had a little bit of a talk about reproductive justice, feminism, and gender equality. And now I would propose to enter a bit of a hot topic, a topic that emotionally charges a lot of people, talking about abortion. And talking about abortion is normally not a very easy one. And I would start with this general question for you, and also asking what is your opinion about it. And sorry, just before, because I forgot, in case you want to participate in this conversation, please leave us comments or on Facebook or on the email CAAT projects, so catprojects@gmail.com. Okay, sorry, Marina. Yeah.
So, in general, like my opinion on abortions is the question.
And why is abortion such a
Hot topic.
complicated topic?
Well, there's so much to be said on this. I don't know where to start. I mean, I think it goes back to like really, really far back in human history why abortion has become such a big topic. Because, I mean, it used to be like, I don't know, in Middle Ages, it used to be normal to just have postnatal abortion. So, yeah, basically kill your baby after it's born. Depending on where you were in the society, of course. Not saying also Middle Ages were better than now, but yeah, I think basically there's this discussion about when the fetus that is in your body becomes a human, has like rights, what is ethical, so many things. And I also think that at one point it has also just become basically like kind of incorporated in the whole religious agenda, pretty much in all kind of religions that are, how do you say it, like the most kind of popular religions, that it's really become a thing of, yeah, abortion shouldn't be allowed, basically. And that has also happened pretty much like along the way. There's, yeah, like not necessarily a lot of things said about that in the Bible, as far as I know. But I think at one point, basically, when kind of also healthcare started going more from like midwives and, you know, like, yeah, people that were claimed to be witches and so on. So people that were just basically giving like, how do you say it, like very kind of folk-based healthcare started to become like more professionalized, and of course then given away to men more and more, is where as women kind of, or basically anyone with a uterus, you lost control over your body kind of, because it started to be controlled by men, basically. And men had an opinion about everything, of course, so, you know, there we start again. But I think the ethical part of it, basically, if we look beyond all of this, kind of like religious reasons or so on and so forth, is basically where, at what point is it okay to still have an abortion? Is it okay to have an abortion? Because basically there's like this holiness of life that is being created inside your body. At the same time, and that I think that is where the kind of like discussion comes from. But at the same time, the fact is, it's still a person's body, right? It's still your body where the fetus is in, and at that point you should still be able to decide like, okay, yeah, I actually want this or I don't want this. And the fact that it's one of the only medical procedures, because that's what it basically is, abortion. It is just essential healthcare. There's all these laws that are passed around this particular medical procedure, which in a lot of places are completely ridiculous. Actually, in the Netherlands, it's also still in the criminal code. There's just other law that basically goes around that, but abortion is still in the criminal code. So yeah, it's just yeah, a kind of a discussion that is very heated because it's fired up definitely by historical, traditional, and religious beliefs, basically. But at the end of the day, should just be seen as a medical procedure and treated as such.
I do remember, I think was something like 15 years ago in Portugal was also a law being made, and was this kind of referendum, and everyone was talking about it. And the impression I got was a little bit that people think in a very selfish or personal term. So it is a little bit, okay, with my beliefs, with my values, would I have an abortion? And then if I wouldn't, then I want to impose this on the others as well. And then if I would, then I'm in favor. But I guess here the question is not so much if I would do an abortion or not, is also that is a special moment in a special person's life that we don't know, but is also a matter of safety, right? Because it's not because we say no, like abortions are illegal, that people are not going to do them as well. So there is this quite interesting facts that I really think that sometimes we do try to impose a lot our values and what we see as priorities in others.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, of course. I think that is like just a human thing to do, which I would really hope we get rid of at one point in our evolution, but it doesn't look like soon. But indeed, I think that definitely the fact that abortions get forbidden, they're just basically done more underground. Yeah, someone also earns on it somehow, you know. Like, yeah, with illegal abortions, with, yeah, basically tricking people to believe that they're being sent pills for abortion while they're being sent, like, aspirin and stuff like this. So there's a big underground black market in a lot of places for this. Yeah, and I think that in general, yeah, the discussion is kind of like, yeah, if it's my body, basically, that I should be able to decide what happens to it, and that just shouldn't, like, there shouldn't necessarily be like a law about it. There should just be like, okay, how does a procedure go, you know? Like, that's, I think, what we should be talking about.
Maybe now, just for the ones that also don't know, I also have to confess I don't know that much about it, but you were saying that in the Netherlands it's still on the criminal code, so it's still a bit this kind of schizophrenic system, because the criminal justice in the Netherlands is based on the opportunity principle, so things have priority, others don't, is also how coffee shops were allowed, I guess, somehow. So there is this, okay, it is illegal, but somehow if he follows these rules we can do it. Can you explain a little bit more about?
Yeah, so it is indeed like kind of a lot of laws are quite weird in this way. Like, if we talk about indeed like coffee shops, how that goes, you know, like, it's also technically it's not allowed to grow it, but it's allowed to sell it. Like, how does that work? But also, yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago squatting got forbidden, but actually it was also in this way. Like, it's criminal unless you are there and you have house peace, which means you have chair, table, and bed, you know, like, how does that work again? Like, how do you get in there? So on and so forth. A bit similar with abortion as well, yeah. So it's like in a criminal code, but again, basically, if it's like performed in a specific place, so if it's like really performed in an abortion clinic, so on and so forth, then it's all legal. But actually, it makes it that it's still quite rigid in a way that, for example, if you were to perform an abortion, so like a pharmaceutical abortion, so with pills at home, that would be legal because you're not following exactly what is in the law. While if you would take the same pills in an abortion clinic, totally legal. So there's this kind of duality of it. And there's a lot more things to be said about the law in the Netherlands. Like, for example, there's like a 5-day waiting period meaning that the first time that you come to the doctor and who tells you, hey, you're pregnant, they will send you home because they say you have to take the 5 days to think about if you actually want to go through with it, and it's mandatory. You cannot say like, hey, I already know, you know, and that is also a question like, why do you have to have this in the law? Do you feel like women or people with uterus are not able to make a decision, you know, like they're on the spot or they already thought about it? I mean, how does that work? Yeah, and there's other things to be said about the law in the Netherlands, like for example, yeah, like there should be a possibility where also if you go to just your GP, that they would prescribe you a pill that you would be able to perform an abortion with. And this has been discussed for a really long time, that this should actually, it was in the law like this, but then they took it out, So basically now we're also at a point where, why can't this be done? You know, that this is a very safe procedure, and why it's not actually being done by GPs. So yeah, there's a lot to be said. It's like one of the most kind of liberal laws in a way in Europe, but I think that what it does, it says more about other countries than it does about the Netherlands. Yeah, because the Netherlands is like basically soon going to be the only country in EU where abortion is officially allowed until 22 weeks. UK was another place where you could get abortion until 24 weeks. Yeah, then basically, and also on top of that, there are only 2 clinics in the Netherlands that perform abortion up to 22 weeks. So this means that in all of European Union, very soon, there will be only 2 clinics that do that. Yeah, and you can imagine, like, it's not only us that are helping people come here to get abortion in the second trimester. It's if you would walk into an abortion clinic, it's people from Belgium, Germany, France, anywhere around, basically, because there they can only exercise their rights to abortion until 12 or some cases 16 weeks. So yeah, then they just all come here.
And maybe for the ones that are not very aware, we don't discover we are pregnant on the first day, right? Sometimes it takes quite a few weeks, if not months, until you actually discover. And then I guess it also takes some time until you take the decision. So, yeah. And also the longer that we wait, the more dangerous will be this procedure for, yeah.
I mean, the danger is not really, it's just more like a more complicated procedure maybe, but it's not really dangerous at any point. If you do it safely, like, you can do an abortion until the very last moment and it should be safe. The problem here is more, for example, if we talk about abortion with pills, at one point it will become, like, at one point it will become dangerous because you shouldn't be doing it with pills anymore. But people do still because they have no other choice. So, yeah, this is I think, a bit more what we're talking about. And, yeah, like, this is also a bit like, we as a group, for example, we never really ask like, hey, what is the reason that you are having an abortion? But also we don't ask, what is the reason it took you so long to realize that you need to have an abortion? Because people's situations are all so different, you know, and to a lot of us, it can seem like, yeah, but 18 weeks, you know, that's how many months? You should be able to already, like, realize until then. But the fact is actually that it's just never a straightforward situation, you know. It can be that your partner all of a sudden left you. It can be that you realize, like, hey, you know, like, my mom said she won't support me financially, I cannot afford it myself. It can be anything, you know. It can also be just the fact that you really are not in touch with your body. You don't know anything about your body, because this is also another thing, like another topic. If you don't have good sexual education, many people, it will take really long to actually realize, like, hey, I'm pregnant. And then still a couple of weeks where you're like, am I able to get an abortion? Should I get an abortion? Do I want an abortion? Where you actually come at a decision, and then still a couple of weeks until you actually are able to get it, maybe, if you're able to get it.
And I think I would also add that if we live in a society that sees abortion in such a negative way, we also end up seeing it. We also kind of absorb the same values, and it becomes really, really complicated for us also feeling terrible people in case we take this decision forward. So for sure, it's not easy, and in terms of mental health, I'm pretty sure it has a huge, huge impact also on the people I know that had to pass through such a procedure. They really took a long time until they could recover from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't really have to be, in a way that I think that there's just so much stigma around this procedure. Like, I remember, for example, when I asked my mom first about abortion, my mom said, like, yeah, you shouldn't do it, and she also said, if you have an abortion, then there's, like, a very small chance that you will be able to get pregnant. There's all these, like, things that come from absolutely nowhere. My mom was also not religious or anything. It's just a thing that's like there in the society. Like, if you have an abortion, it means there's something wrong with you. It means you're like a slut. It means, like you are not able to be a responsible adult, and so on and so forth. Well, I think it actually does mean you're a responsible adult, and also great if you're a slut. That's your thing to do. Because I feel like you can never actually say what person's reason is for this choice. One thing, and the second thing is like, so many people cover it up that the image that abortion gets very often is like, it's always people that are like maybe less educated, of a certain ethnic background, which is also total bull. Like, it's really not true. Absolutely everyone has abortion, no matter your age, no matter your education, no matter your ethnical background. None of this really matters. If you look at statistics, it's really all over the place. And it's just more that if you have more money, you have more access to it, you can afford to get it in a more privileged position, basically, which again, if we look at it, that very often means it's white Western cis women that are able to get it in a very safe way. So very often they will be like a small part of the statistic, but the other people will be a part of the statistic where it goes wrong, like where they are too late, where the abortion was very unsafe, where maybe they even had some really horrible thing happen to them while having an abortion and so on. So it's really kind of all over the place. And I think coming back kind of to what you were saying, it's also definitely like has a big impact on anyone who would get it, but it also is a big part of it is stigma, I think, because a lot of people that we talk to after the procedure, their first reaction or their first emotion is relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else comes, like, how will I be able to say it to, like, if I will be able to say it to anyone, and so on and so forth. There's a really cool kind of movement now in Poland, actually, but I don't think it started in Poland. It's more just like it's getting really popular there now, which is abortion coming out. So it's basically like, coming out that you're, for example, gay or something. You can come out and be like, I had an abortion, and it's totally fine. So it's kind of like destigmatizing the fact that someone would have had an abortion. And there's also, I think in US, there's shout your abortion, which is also kind of this thing of like, hey, shouldn't be a shameful thing. It shouldn't be a very heavy thing. It's okay if it was heavy for you, but it's also totally fine if it was not heavy for you. It doesn't have to be an emotionally loaded procedure.
Thank you, and I think now it's time for our second song that you chose, that is?
Yes, it's Crudas Cubanci, which is a band from Cuba, and it's a queer band, and they're non-binary people basically singing about that it's their body and their choice.
Okay, so we will listen to the second song, and then we come back, and when we come back, we're going to look to your questions, your comments, so please send us or on Facebook or to caatprojects@gmail.com.
Whose bodies, our bodies. Whose rights, our rights. Cuerpo de quienes, de nosotras. Derechos de quienes, de nosotras. Decisiones de quienes, de nosotras.
MC one more time, representing women and queer people choices. KRUDA, yeah. Saquen su rosario de nuestro ovario. Saquen su rosario de nuestro ovario. Saquen su doctrina de nuestra vagina. Saquen su doctrina de nuestra vagina. Ni amo, ni estado, ni partido, ni marido.
Ni amo, ni estado, ni partido, ni marido.
Ni amo, ni estado, ni partido, ni marido. Ni amo, ni estado, ni partido, ni marido. Ya tú lo sabes hacer, so no te desesperes. Que en este juego siempre ganamos las mujeres. Ya tú lo sabes hacer, so no te desesperes. Que mi crudeza es la que la gente quiere. Que las féminas no somos solo para vernos bonitas, para seguirte los coros y luego calladitas, no. Aquí estamos las crudas con el micro hermano, representando a las primas, oye tú. En esta vida tenemos gran importancia, en nuestro lugar defenderemos con elegancia, más que ustedes conocemos la discriminación. Somos casi humildes, somos color, pero además somos mujeres, necesitamos amor, conocemos el sudor, disfrutamos nuestro olor, tenemos tan buen sabor. No somos Mickey, ni Chiqui, ni Ricky, criatura diferente pa' tu psiqui. No somos Mickey, ni Chiqui, ni Ricky, criatura diferente pa' tu psiqui. Afro, latinoamericana y caribeña, orgullo de mi gente y de mi cuerpo dueña. Afro, latinoamericana y caribeña, orgullo de mi gente y de mi cuerpo dueña. Afro, latinoamericana y caribeña, orgullo de mi gente y de mi cuerpo dueña. My body is mine, my body is mine. Mi cuerpo es mío, mi cuerpo es mío. Ya tú lo sabes hacer, so no te desesperes. Que en este juego siempre ganamos las mujeres. Ya tú lo sabes hacer, so no te desesperes. Que mi crudeza es la que la gente quiere.
Desde inmemorables épocas tuvimos grandes hazañas, mujeres de letras, de arte y de maña, negra heroína, blanca china, todas chamanas, indias hermanas, luchando por un mejor mañana porque tenga comida en tu mesa, sol y tu cama. Aquí estamos las cubanas haciendo lo que nos dé la gana, como ella, tú sabes, esto es 2014, pa' que lleve, pa' que goce, Emilio Récord, esto es completo.
Afro, latinoamericana y caribeña, orgullo de mi gente y de mi cuerpo dueña. Afro, latinoamericana y caribeña, orgullo de mi gente y de mi cuerpo dueña. Afro, latinoamericana y caribeña, orgullo de mi gente y de mi cuerpo dueña. My body is mine, my body is mine. Mi cuerpo es mío, mi cuerpo es mío.
And welcome back to our last part of our conversation. I'm Andrea from CAAT Projects. I'm here with Marina from ANA. And we are talking about abortions and abortion rights. And were talking as well about situation in the Netherlands and the laws. But I think for this last part would be quite interesting to talk about what is happening in Poland. And I guess you are a little bit familiar with the situation. And maybe it would be better if you explained than if I would do.
Sure. Well, okay, so I'm not Polish myself, but there are many people in our group that are Polish. And also, actually, almost a year ago, it will be exactly a year on the 11th of December, we became a part of a network of different abortion organizations that is called Abortion Without Borders. What it does is basically it is focused actually on providing abortion access to people in Poland. And this has been also actually quite like a big thing in Poland. We did like a big launch of the campaign and so on. And so how it works is basically that there is a phone number, which is kind of like, we call it like a live line where you can call if you have any questions about abortion. And the moment that your call comes in, you are in touch with someone basically from our network that will think with you and decide where is the best place for you to go to have the abortion. Or if you actually are still at a point where you can have a pharmaceutical abortion, so they will direct you to a website where you can order pills. So the two organizations from Poland that are in this network are Kobiety w sieci, which has for a long time has been this forum where you can get advice on where to get the pills, how to take them, and sometimes also people that will basically help you be there with you while you're taking the pills. Aborcyjny Dream Team, which is basically this amazing organization of people that are doing absolutely everything that has to do with abortion in Poland. Their advocacy, but also advice, but also like personal cases, juridical advice, so on. They will send you through to either Women Help Women if you need pills, or to Ciocia Basia, which is a similar organization to us in Berlin, if you need like, how do you say it, like a procedure in a clinic below 12 weeks, and then further they will send people either to us or to ISN, Abortion Support Network in UK. So this is the network that we set up. And what happened in Poland was that on the 22nd of October this year, the court, which has basically kind of like, I don't know if anyone knows the story of how Trump put like, you know, the higher judges into the court that he wanted. This same thing happened in Poland. So kind of like a really right-wing court decided that they will forbid abortions in Poland that are for cases of fetal abnormalities. Where in Poland, I think legally there were something like 2,000 something abortions each year happening, which is nothing compared to like the illegal numbers are, I think, at 200,000, something like this. So this is incredible. But basically what they did is they took something away that is very, in a way, symbolic, but it at least meant that people were able to get an abortion if they had a very clear case of a fetal abnormality of maybe the child that they wanted, but they couldn't handle, so that they would be able to still decide to abort their fetus. So this means that, and this accounts for like 97%, I think, of the abortions actually in Poland. All the other 3% were, for cases if you're, for example, raped, which also never happens because it's really difficult to get like a very clear case of the fact that you were raped. What happened afterwards, after this ruling, is that basically streets on Poland exploded in all bigger cities, but also smaller cities and even like I think villages. People went on the streets saying no, this is it. You cannot take away this last right from us. And I think that it has also been an explosion of, you know, people that are sympathetic with this right being taken away, but it's also something that has actually I would say maybe showed people that basically everyone that was kind of against the ruling party, PiS, which is like a very right-wing party, just went on the streets and were solidarity with absolutely everything that PiS is basically against. And the slogan of this this whole kind of small revolution that was happening is yes, exactly that one, is jebać PiS, which means fuck off PiS, or wypierdolać, which just means like fuck off. So I think that it's like a very clear message kind of like what's happening. And where we are in this struggle is basically that our services have also become very, very busy. The whole network is extremely busy right now with helping people from Poland. And it's not such a big number, maybe in a way, like of people that want to, like how do you say it, statistically, like these 2,000 people, it's not that much if you spread it against a whole year. But actually, it means that just a lot of people in Poland are just unclear and uncertain about any type of abortion that they would be even thinking to get. So what happens is that they just approach us.
And I guess it's also a very important reminder that we think sometimes that, okay, we won this battle, so we have this as a right now, but the rights can be taken away quite easy. So, yeah, I think that is also quite a big lesson, because this happened now in Poland, but who can tell us that won't happen in any other European country?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's like there have been attempts to make, for example, abortion a lot more difficult in the Netherlands as well, to put the time, the limit of a legal abortion down, to make the procedure of how you should like basically get this waiting time and so on even more difficult. So yeah, definitely, it's a very precarious thing.
And we are now in our last moments. I was checking if there is any comments, but I can't find it. But still, I think it is very important we just realize how much work Anna has been doing. And I think you do need a lot of help, isn't it? So.
Yeah, this is definitely something like a very important topic for us, because, well, I don't know, it's like since the ruling of court on the 22nd of October in Poland, we got like the first 24 hours, 5 cases of fetal abnormalities, like the clients that came in. If we talk about like the last year, I think we had something like, approximately 100, or how do you say it, in the year of 2020, we had something like 180 clients coming in, but more than 40 have been the last month since the ruling. So yeah, it's incredibly busy. What I have mentioned before, basically, abortions are very expensive in the Netherlands. So I think that for us, it's also very important to make a plug like this, that we actually just want your money. Like, we need donations. We need people to help us by donating money to us, so that we could give it to people that need it for their abortion. Like, we're a grassroots organization. We don't take any money for our offices or our own wages. The money goes directly to people that need an abortion. And yeah, this is basically what we would like you to do, to go to our Facebook or to our Instagram, and there's a GoFundMe link there, and if you want to donate something, this would be really awesome.
So the message stays. You know where to find Abortion Network Amsterdam, Anna, and you can always donate in this link. And we are basically done. As I would really thank you for being here, taking your time, and all the amazing information you just gave us. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation. Thank you to the radio, to the OT301 Radio. They also are in need of some support to keep on doing every Friday this work. And as CAAT Projects, I just would like to invite you for the next event that will be online. The event is called No Wall, was also filmed here in the studios, and is a video performance where we're going to discuss what are the current walls that we would like to dismantle in our communities, and how can we do that. So the invitation stays. You can come to CAAT Projects page, and you can also see this No Wall event. And thank you so much for being there, for listening. Otherwise, this will make no sense. And that's it. I hope you enjoy it, and you also learn, like me, a bit of what is happening right now.
Thanks so much.